Are you a self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is the premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and Self-Storage Unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Hello, everyone. If that last part of that video doesn't get you pumped up, I don't know what will. Welcome to Self-Storage Unlocked. This is a series that the SBOA puts on usually 2 to 3 times a month. It's a free webinar series where we bring self-storage industry experts together for you to help teach you all about the industry and the things that we have learned throughout the years. My name is Jessica Johnson. I'm the Vice President of the Storage Business Owners Alliance, better known as the SBOA. And before we get started, I wanted to go over just a few quick housekeeping items with you. You'll notice on the right-hand side of your screen, there is a polls section. We would really love to hear from you. So if you could take a few minutes while we do our introductions and take a look at those polls and answer those, it just helps us to get to know you better and better serve you and find service providers that will be relevant to what you're looking for and what your needs are. Also, I see a lot of you are chatting with us in the comment section, telling us your name and where you're from. If you have questions for the speakers today, please ask those while you think of them. Don't wait until the end. Ask them as we're going along and while we're talking about the content. And the replay of this is always available on the SBOA YouTube channel. We post all videos the very next day. So as of tomorrow morning, if for any reason you have to jump off early or you weren't able to make it live, you can always go to the YouTube channel and watch our videos afterwards. And we would not be able to do these type of events if it weren't for our partners that we know in the industry. So big shout out to Absolute Storage Management, the Jenkins Organization, Skill Check, and Haviland Storage Services that are with us today. And the last part of that video, many of you probably saw, we have a new program called Storage for Rookies. Our sister company, Storage Pros Management, we've been around for 25 years. We built, sold, acquired a portfolio well over 100 locations, and we're very successful in the process. So that's a new series that we're doing for newer owners and operators or operators that are looking to expand their portfolio. We do it usually about every 4 to 6 weeks. If you go to storageforrookies.com, you'll be able to see our upcoming dates and you can go register. It's a one-day session. It's virtual like you are here with us today. And we do that from 12 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to go ahead and start introducing our speakers so we can get started. So first up, I have Carol Mixon from Skill Check. Hey, Carol.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Doing well. So Carol, you've been around for a long time in this industry. Tell the audience how long, what you do, and what Skill Check offers.
Yeah, 1984, probably before you were born.
No, I was born in 81.
But yeah, 84. And I started with a company called National Self Storage. They're still around. And at National, they hired me as a trainer. And I wanted to be an opera singer. So Jessica, kind of like nothing goes quite right with that, right? But I did have a secondary education degree. So they hired me and I started their training program. We did 10 full days of training in Tucson, Arizona. And then we sent them back out. So, and then they over leveraged in the 80s. And so I found myself without a job and I thought, you know what? I can do this on my own. So I started Skill Check in 1987.
Awesome. And tell me a little bit about what Skill Check does.
Well, we evaluate people's sales techniques. That's kind of what we do. But we also manage. We do consulting. We do audits. We help people, be able to improve their storage property in general. Yes, whether it's the managers or sometimes the owners need help.
And listen, they need help. There's lots out there that need help. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for being here today. All right. And then next up, I have Curtis Burns from Absolute Storage Management. Hey, Curtis.
Hello.
Curtis, tell me about you, how long you've been around and how long you've been working over at Absolute and what you guys do over there.
I have been around in the storage industry for 11 years now. It actually happened upon my wife seeing an assistant manager job posted on her college board at Mississippi College. I applied, didn't think I wanted to be in storage and thought it was going to be a temporary stop for me. But I've been in the storage industry for 11 years and with ASM for 11 years.
Awesome. So with the same company your entire time during your career in self-storage thus far?
Absolutely.
Well, because you've got an awesome team over there. I wouldn't leave either if I were you.
Not going anywhere.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here today, Curtis. It's appreciated. All right. Next up, I have Jeremy Rolwitz from the Jenkins organization. What's up, Jeremy?
What's up, Jessica? Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for being here. Now, Jeremy, tell us all about you, how long you've been around, and what the Jenkins organization does.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Jeremy Rolwitz, regional manager for the Jenkins organization. I've been in the business for 16 years now, and I love talking about it. I love success, have a keen attention to detail, and storage is my passion. So, the Jenkins organization, we're a dynamic third-party management company with a customized approach and a devotion to lasting relationships. So it's been successful thus far, and we want to keep that success going.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here today. And we'll get to learn more about each of these companies as we talk today. They've got so much experience. And last but not least, I have Sue Haviland from Haviland Storage. Well, am I saying it right? Haviland Storage Services?
You are.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Sue, tell us all about you and what you guys do over there.
Well, I'm close, but I don't quite beat Carol for as long. I came in the industry in 1989. So still more than half of my life, more of my life has been spent in storage than being alive, So I started way back when as a site manager, and with Extra Space Storage, I was, blessed enough. Ken Woolley was my mentor. I got to learn all about storage from one of the masters, and was there over 10 years, and then have worked at a couple other portfolios. And several years ago, I just decided to cut out on my own. I saw a need for a lot of the smaller single operators. And so originally I was just going to kind of do some training and auditing, and it's now evolved into third-party management as well. So we still do quite a bit of everything, and love it all. I'm a storage nerd and have drugged my husband into it years ago too, and making him come back to the fold again. He's retiring from the company he's been with for 15 years at the end of this month to come back into the family business so we can keep providing services. We're also starting to split our time from California to the Carolinas. So
nice.
I'm excited to learn a market that I haven't spent much time in, as I'll be living there half of the year. So.
Very cool. Well, thanks for being here, Sue. So I'm going to get everybody back up here on screen so we can get this kicked off. This is quite a lineup of rock stars we have today, so I'm super pumped for this one. And today we're going to talk all about providing that 5-star customer service to your customers and tenants. And it really is going to start with your first line of defense, right? Which is the property manager. So as we do these, we have a planning call, and I believe it was Jeremy or Curtis had said, you need to hire slow and fire fast. So I just kind of want to go round table real quick and tell me what your favorite attributes are when you're looking for a property manager in the interviewing process. I'll start with you, Sue. You're to my right on screen. So.
Well, I think, over the years I've learned, when I was younger in this, I would try to, fit the person to the role versus making sure that I saw that it was going to be a fit all the way around. There's a lot of things that you can train, and there's a lot of aspects that come with our candidates that you can't train.
That's true.
And so, having a good set. I think one of the mistakes a lot of operators make when they're looking for new people is they haven't even reviewed the resumes before the applicant comes in. We're all busy and they don't have a consistent process for the same questions they ask, good questions to ask. Just, if you have the just questions and you can't get a good rapport going, if I can't get a good rapport with somebody in an interview, they're not going to be able to take good care of my customers. So I think just having a good, consistent plan and making sure that you have the right person interviewing. I'd say one other thing is, as we get busy, sometimes we might let someone else in the organization interview, and they might not be as trained on what they can and cannot say or ask. And just to make sure that it's a good, well-rounded interview from both perspectives, the candidate and the employer.
Awesome. Curtis, what do you have to add to that? What do you look for when you're doing hiring?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Sue said. I for sure look for look at the resume, make sure that they're capable of just doing the task, but I don't get caught up in the capabilities. I want to know their personality, and are they going to be personable? Are they going to show care and concern to the customer, to our tenant base? Because most of our tenants that we have at our facilities are in some sort of transition in life. So I think someone needs to have some care and concern, and you want to make sure that you're thinking about when you're hiring someone that it's like a marketing or it's part of your curb appeal. Is this the person that you want to be the face of your property? Are they going to hold up your standards or your culture that you have for your organization? And think that through. And I know you won't be able to figure that out through the first interview, but there's some cues. You just have to really listen and get to know the person. But if you can't develop a relationship or some kind of attachment, I think that's when you may have to probably move on and look at your other options, but don't hire so fast. You have to look.
Yeah, for sure. Jeremy, how about you?
Curtis, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. So kudos. I think first and foremost, not every property is the same. So you really got to hire to that specific dynamic of the property. Also, how much research have they done prior to the interview on the company? That shows some hunger. Reliability, attention to detail, and just willing to learn and willing to adapt. Those are huge and definitely something that, is part of the interview process and part of the notes taken when we're going to place these individuals at properties.
And I would agree with that too. There's nothing more painful when you go, like one of my first questions typically is, have you even looked at who we are and what we do? And when the answer is no, that's kind of an X for me, right? Like I want that to be a check, not an X. So I completely agree with that. Carol, how about you?
Thank you so much. Yeah, and everything, I agree with all of you. But I wanted to add one of the things that I've done that's been super successful. And Jess, you may have one of my little forms. It's the 5 questions that we ask on the phone before they ever get into the office. Because I figure, because by the time they come in the office, it's going to be 30 minutes or it's going to be time. And time is so precious. So we just figure out, okay, should these people be with us or not? Or is it worth an interview? And if you can just see, what days you're willing to work? Do you have any times of days that you're unable to work? Do you have a valid driver's license and a reliable transportation? These are easy. And what's your hourly wage? And we don't let them say, well, what's it pay? we don't go with that. We don't like that. So we'd want them to tell us. And but then the ratings are super important by the person that we are having that's doing the calling from my office. And the weird thing is sometimes we just are like, okay, this is a no. If they can't impress us on the phone, then there's no point in spending time with them in the office, because so much of this job is on the phone.
Yeah, they're not going to impress your tenants, right?
Yeah. I had a lady one day that came in and she was sat in front of me and I said, so tell me something about yourself. And she goes, well, what do you want to know? And it was really curt. And I said, well, I don't know, business, stuff, personal, whatever you want to tell me. She goes, no, you have to be specific. And I just
I want to know your.
I don't think this is for you. This isn't
Yeah.
for you. And she goes, what? I haven't even been in this seat a minute. I said, exactly. Then I already know this isn't for you. So I think when you're thinking about this job, I mean, everything we've all said these are people loving people, right? We have to find people that like customers and that don't like, oh boy, here they come. Well, though I've done that on occasion, but we do have some weirdos.
Carol's point is great, that I think a lot of people don't do a phone interview first.
Yeah.
And so that point of saving the time and screening and then knowing, and also somebody who takes the time to do a phone, come to an in-person. I mean, we do a phone in person, sometimes the two in person with different people to make sure. And if somebody, makes it through all that, then, they really want it and they've got no question. One other thing I want to throw in that I think we probably all may or may not admit we do is with candidates. And as with our topic today of customer service, when you're trying to learn somebody you're bringing into your culture, on the resume, I see if they're a hopper. If they're changing jobs every 6 months or a year, that's a red flag for me. I mean, not that you still can't get a great candidate, but clearly they're always looking for the greener grass, or they're a problem and they don't realize they are. And then I also will search their name on social media just to see if they come up and what kind of posts they make. And while that I wouldn't not hire somebody for that, it can give me a really clear picture based on the type of things they post, what they're going to bring to my company culture, and if they are a fit for the company culture that we have.
Yeah, and that's a really good way to look at it. And I mean, the Great Resignation was real. We're facing some trying times as it relates to staffing, hiring, and even retaining good staff. People are jumping for like dollar increases versus, coming and talking to you and seeing maybe if they can get the increase within versus having to go look outbound. So lots of stuff going on in the human resources side of the world. But so Sue, that actually was a good segue into my next question for you guys. So if I'm a newer owner operator and, do you recommend that they come up with like a clear mission statement, core values, company culture? Like, what's that look like, and how do you implement that and make sure that your team members fit that mold? Jeremy, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so the company culture, as I mentioned in our training call, I mean, that's the fundamental. Everything flows down from the culture, and so I'd mentioned the sincere supportiveness, which we treat those around us with the same support and feedback that they, that we take sincere interest in their success, and we continue to provide the feedback and the support and the training that is going to get them to that next level if they choose to take that next step. And so, whether it be, from the CEO down, the company culture is just so important. And it is the fundamental. Everything starts to fit into place when you have the culture down right.
Yeah. Anyone want to add? Go ahead, Sue.
I'd love to add, like, a good example, we're all human, and especially when you've been doing it as long as most of us have, with your culture, it's so important, especially nowadays. That's what our candidates are looking for. Sometimes the most is what kind of culture we have. But make sure you practice what you preach. And we can all get caught up in that ourselves. So I catch myself sometimes, I've got to make sure I lead by example and I'm practicing what I'm preaching, so that if I expect it out of others, they know that they're going to see me doing the same things and adhering to that as well if I expect it from them. And, especially like out on audits and things, and Carol could probably see, we see all the time that people are supposed to be given this great service and doing these things, but they don't have the tools to support them. They don't have the expectations. They don't know what they are, and they see their leadership, whether it be an area manager, other managers, owners, doing something different than they're expected to do.
Right.
So it's a, very gray and can lead to some of the cases where stores might not know what their expectations are, and thus you get into the bad reviews and the kinds of service that we all hope we're competing against.
And
Yeah, definitely.
also add, if you don't have your culture defined, you should and have some core values. But also just in defining those, defining what your culture is, what your core values is, it doesn't stop at just defining it. Like Sue and Jeremy said, you have to make sure that that your team members can see that you're following your core values and that you also implement them. It's somewhat also of a guiding light for anyone operating a facility or facilities. It can help you make some tough decisions. We deal with things where sometimes team members aren't doing the right things, and sometimes they are, or they're doing all the right things, but they're doing something that may be against one of your core values. Let's say maybe integrity. Integrity is a big thing. This property is really performing, but then you find out that this person may be selling retail and pocketing some of the money, but they're doing such a great job. If you put that up towards your core value, integrity, you need to separate with that person. So the core value keeps you true and also helps you make decisions easier within your organization when you have difficult things to discuss.
Can I give you a real life story? Curtis just gave a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I have a client I have audited for over 10 years. And for the first 5 years of it, I caught the manager stealing through the petty cash every year, and among other things. And it became almost like a game with him to see if I could catch where he was stealing. And because that property was so well occupied, brought in so much money, that owner, smaller owner, didn't want to rock the boat and make a change because he kind of figured, well, how much could it really hurt? And it was, I'm like, oh, you'd be surprised how much. And then all the other employees knew what he was doing. So again, it's that, you gotta have the same rules for everybody, and you gotta practice what you preach. And if it's doing well with a thief, think how well it'll do without one.
Oh yeah,
No doubt. Yeah, that's great. Go ahead, Carol.
Too, because Sue, both of us do the same thing, right? With all this, I found a guy in Hawaii, and that's okay, on Oahu. 7 different times I've audited and found him there, and he's stealing. And one just happened this last year. So I'm thinking, and I have told other owners. I said to this one guy at a trade show, I said, "Hey, I heard you have this guy, and he's working for you. I just want to let you know that I found him stealing several times." And he patted me on the hand and he goes, "Carol, we pay so well. He's not going to steal from us." And I thought, are you kidding me? I mean, he's just waiting for that, right? And then in a little while, a few months later, I heard that he'd stolen about $35,000 that they'd found from that guy.
Oh my gosh. And I mean, I really think, because of the environment that we're living in right now, people are so scared to let go of bad staff because they're afraid they're not going to be able to backfill them, or they might have to work more hours or ask other staff members to work more hours to kind of fill the gaps. But I mean, long term, that's so detrimental. We didn't talk about this in our planning call, but I think this is relevant, and maybe for some of the newer owner operators out there. What are some of those ways that you have seen staff members stealing from within? Because they can do it through the software system. I mean, there's some ways they can do it. Give me a couple quick examples of what you guys have seen throughout your years, because those thieves, they can get a little creative sometimes.
Oh my, I can talk for hours on that.
Look, I'm gonna write this down. This is gonna be a whole webinar. I'm gonna make it a thing, but let's give a few examples.
I've seen at a leased up property for sure, and maybe the owner not being too attentive, Cash App payments, tenants paying for their storage through Cash App and then not having a proper audit in place and or asking the right questions when you're checking your units, why this unit occupied, or putting a lock on the unit. That's how we identified this. Put the locks on the unit. The customer said they just paid. Well, I cashed app so-and-so. What do you mean you cashed app so-and-so? So Cash App, that's been a way that we've seen it. We've also seen team members posting checks. The checks don't automatically clear, but the credit posts. So it'll show as a cash payment, so they can give the tenant a receipt, and then the money won't be there. Basically, it won't add up, and then they end up zeroing it out. but that history is tracked within the software, so we find it that way. But the checks in the Cash App was one that we for sure have seen, and also through the auction process. That one sometimes gets trickier. Auction proceeds. Sometimes that money doesn't add up, and that's money that the owners need to look at. At the end of the auction, we send reconciliation to our regional managers to review, just to make sure that from the website that it matches. But if you're not watching that, they'll scam. I've seen money taken off from there too.
Yeah.
One of the ways I see a lot that's their testing waters is through the petty cash, or
Yes.
if you have a company like Office Depot card or Home Depot card, that corporate pays the bill, and then they'll submit the receipt in again through petty. So corporate's no one's checking it, so it gets paid on the big bill, and then they're pocketing, the $80, $120 in cash. They're buying, a good example is, do you really go through 30 cases of water bottles a month for your customers? It's going home, postage, groceries, little weird things. So if nobody's checking, they test little things, and then if they get by with the little things, then it becomes bigger things, and then that gives them the confidence to go into the taking fee waves, discounts, other things, mystery units, renting units for cash that aren't in the system. So it's so important to do walkthroughs. When I go to a site, one time I count the petty cash, and the next week, if I'm there back to back, I might go walk all the units. So it's
So
just,
Sue, you mean I can't use my company card to buy my kids their back to school items? I mean, Ian's going to be really mad when he sees the Amex bill next month. I'm totally joking, everyone.
one of my funniest ones was a patio set that I was told was for the site, and it wasn't. I'm like, well, where is it?
Oh my gosh, you gotta love it, right? Hey, can't fix stupid in some scenarios. We could go on for hours about this. I'm gonna make this a webinar, I promise. You
I
guys
did
just
write a
give me
book
great
on it,
idea.
so if you need one.
Oh, you did?
I did. I've got a book.
I want to read it. And I'm going to do an audience question real quick. This is coming from Taylor. Has the pandemic caused management companies to hire anyone who walks in the door?
Not me.
Yeah, for us, it actually forced us to push our remote program and contactless rental. We were testing it 2019, but when 2020 came, we had to make it go live. And we were able to get through the pandemic with contactless rental and getting our units online. So that's what it pushed us to do. And sometimes have a virtual property manager where someone would manage the property remotely, but absolutely not.
Awesome.
I love competing with anybody who's still just hiring a warm body to get the store open, because as Curtis said, there's so many ways we can operate when we do get those shortages, or if we're, set up right, that I don't want to put the wrong person in there, because again, then what's the service going to be like? Are they really going to be there? How long will they really last? What we forget a lot of times is when you have short turnovers, that just is more expensive than waiting a little longer to hire the right person.
For sure, because you pay training costs, you're probably buying them uniforms that they end up walking away with. I mean, and if they stay around for 30, 60 days and they weren't the right fit, rather than waiting and pausing and trying to figure out if it is the right fit, the turnover costs are expensive. I'm going to ask another one, and I'll shoot this over to Jeremy and Carol. This is from Shannon over at XPS. When you've had to let someone go, and I think what she's meaning by this too, like if you do have a good property manager, they're getting used to your tenants, right? And they probably are forming relationships. Talk about how you make that invisible to your tenants, so it's not kind of like a ripple where they come in and go, "Where's Susie? Why isn't she here today?" Go ahead, Jeremy. I'll go with you first.
Yeah, so most definitely, we don't want it to be, a red mark on the property. We typically utilize it as a transition, just a new face. Whenever, negativity, I think, goes a long way if you start promoting that property. And I think at the end of the day, we budget some flex with the change in manager. But again, putting the right person in place does a lot of good. It can help sew up some of those inefficiencies that you had with the previous manager. And I think putting the right person in place and getting in front of the customers, it's going to be fruitful, definitely.
Sure. How about you, Carol?
Yeah, I find the same, basically when you're looking at changing out managers, and I think most time the customers notice that there's something wrong. The doors aren't open when they're supposed to be, or they can't get the manager when they need it. And so it's understandable. But I have had cases where, someone left and they loved them. And it was hard for me too. So we really tried to match that type of manager, knowing that the managers, that the customers like that manager. We try to get someone, that was outgoing, or, the type of, and sometimes it's been just the opposite. We've kind of got a tough person in there that can, because it's a hard store to run. And we need someone that's a little bit of a policeman outside, keeps people from living in the unit or whatever. So I definitely know that the person has to match the store. You cannot move a person to, like, I moved someone from Monterey to Stockton. That never worked because Monterey was beautiful. Customers were great. And when they got to Stockton, they were like, what? Customers do this? They weren't used to that.
Totally get it.
I had one of my newest management contracts I took over. The previous manager had been there 28 years. So the customer base was very loyal to her for a lot of reasons. And the new team is quite a bit younger, and the customers were really being kind of bullying and kind of rough with them based on what they used to do with the old manager, and thought that they pushed the old manager out. So we put up some signs and said, help us all show Shelley our appreciation for all her years of service. She decided to retire. We're collecting cards for her, and we'll pass them on for you. And that really helped that transition where they were wanting to beat up the new manager over the old manager if they could drop off a card, and we sent her and took her all the cards or any little things they brought her. That just seemed to be like a nice thing. So something like that, when it's been a good transition, it's just one of those time to go.
That's a great idea.
All your new structure and things, you can maybe help that smooth over for the beloved person who's all of a sudden gone.
Yeah. And Sue, remind me, I'm going to ask an audience question, but I want to come back to what you're talking about, because our industry has a ton of mergers, tons of acquisitions, this owner changing to this owner's hands, and probably staff members that do stay and try to make it through the new ownership going, well, my old owner didn't do it that way, and how to get through some of those barriers. But Jeff Wolf has a question. He is asking, how has contactless rentals affected levels of customer service and the perception of our quality? Don't all jump at once. I'll pick on someone.
I talk too much, so I was going to let someone else take it.
I'll talk some. So I will tell you, it should not. Contactless rental does not mean contactless. You need to make sure you reach out to that tenant after they moved in. And even if they haven't moved in, call and check and see what's going on. Just do a check-in or a touch point with them regarding the rental process. That's something that we have taught and that everyone should push when it comes to the contactless rental, because you will end up having that perception that there's no relationship built with that on-site team member or the company, and they may get a sour taste in their mouth because no one spoke to them, or they may just feel like it's unmanned. Even if it is an unmanned property, you still need to make sure that you're reaching out to those rentals that move in.
That's a great point. I mean, just because it's contactless doesn't mean we cannot optimize the customer experience. Putting your best foot forward, creating virtual tours, photos of the property, and just your follow-up. Your follow-up is just important, as if they're in the office. So huge.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Jessica, one of the things that I did during COVID is work with StoreQuest with their call center. And they were really pushing the contactless, because they had some stores that they didn't have any people in. They had older people that had COVID. And so we had to deal with that. And so with technology, we really, and I was training the agents to be able to do this and to be able to contact and talk to them over the video and be friendly and kind and do the process and get their, how to do the whole process and make it easy and contactless. But I was just specifically working with the call center only, no manager on the property.
I mean, COVID definitely changed our environment, but I think for the better, and we're, as a industry, we were probably way behind in technology than other industries. And then everyone had to put an accelerator on coming up with these ways and creative ways to do it. But you have to think of this, even with artificial intelligence, there's a human body behind it programming it. Like contactless does not mean like,
Right.
oh, the robots take care of everything, the website, the call center, the QR codes, you have to have a human element to it. You have to analyze the data and you have to pivot on what the data points are telling you. I want to bring up this comment from Karen. I think this is an interesting comment. And we can talk about this. I have noticed since the start of the pandemic, we managers have to watch a large influx of homeless people trying to rent a unit to live in. Have to be very careful how to qualify them to rent and to not be rude. Anyone else seeing that that's on the panel? Are you? Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen it in some of our markets. I mean, it's a little heavy in the Austin market at, some locations. And, we don't want to isolate a certain customer thinking that they may be homeless, but there's a few questions. And I mean, our gut tells us a lot. And especially your manager, you're giving them the tools and the support to make confident decisions whether or not to rent to this customer. We go through a few checks and balances just to make sure that we're optimizing the customer base. But again, it is a case by case basis, and we do see it, but it's nothing that's caused anybody to take a step back or cause us to necessarily change the way we do things.
For sure.
I actually had a person, one of our customers, die in a unit that it burned up because he was in it smoking. And so I'm pretty ruthless about this. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
I don't think they're meant to be lived in. And I try everything I can to get those people. And I know I've had managers that have found resources and given them a sheet of, here's some resources. And I love it when the managers are that proactive. I think that's amazing. But I can't go through that again because it was a lot for me even to handle. And to being at the site when all of that, and then all the other people affected by and they're like, how could you let them in there smoking? I'm like, well, and these are all my mother's goods, and this, everybody lost all their heirlooms too. So it's not just the one person getting hurt, and we have a big responsibility, I believe, that as an industry to not allow those as best we can. I mean, things happen, but we can try not to make it worse.
For sure. I'm a huge social media person. Most people that know me know that. I'm a big TikToker, and I kid you not, there is this guy on TikTok that has converted. I mean, like he's got a sink, an area, a kitchen, everything. And he videoed on TikTok how he built his storage unit out to be livable and how he can trick with the lock and everything. And I am like trying frantically to like be the FBI and figure out what location that is, because I'm gonna find him, I promise you. But it's on TikTok, for God's sake. So
well, that gets into again how diligent your site team is, and you can't just go walking by or buy on the cart and notice something and not say something. And I know this becomes a comfort level a lot of times for some staff, driving by, and they'll come back and, I saw this in there. Well, what did you say to them? Well, I didn't say anything. Well, hop back on and get back out there. And if you have to refer to what section of the lease they're violating, and, is it a one-time offense and they can fix it and be a good tenant again? Or do you have to start that process so you don't end up with a burn down? I mean, any of us that have done this long enough, if you've dealt with a fire or been beat up or had any of those kinds of things happen to you, then you learn real quick this structure is good for a reason. It protects me, it protects the asset, it protects anybody else around. So and again, our training bodes to that with our expectations of what we expect.
I think also the area manager making sure that they are the ones that go and enforce some of this and not just leaving it for the property manager to do, because sometimes it takes a supervisor to come in and put the hammer down on them.
So like you're defining like a clear escalation process, right? If your property manager maybe doesn't necessarily feel comfortable being the bearer of bad news, sorry, you can't live in your unit.
Right.
Talk me through that a little bit, and some of the training you guys do around how to deal with, irate customers, and kind of how to empower your staff to deal with them and to deal with other things within the location where they're not calling you asking for approval every time. Like, are you setting clear expectations on like, you don't need to call me for this approval. I give you the empowerment to approve this. Talk me through some of that, all of you.
I'll just jump in here because I had some people having sex in the unit like on a regular basis. I mean, in Reno,
storage.
where you can get a hotel for $30. I'm like, okay,
crazy.
Sorry. I digress. But I think, Sue, when we've had conversations and we tell stories back and forth, it's just amazing how often people do stupid stuff in storage. But we try to just, that's why managers have to, they can't be office rats. They have to get out on the property. They have to know what's going on. If someone's staying down there 6 hours, there's something wrong. That's not normal.
For sure.
And so you have to have managers that just don't stay in the office constantly. And that means including not even a drive-up property, an indoor property. All those things are the same. That's why completely unmanned, you're going to have someone still looking at the property, whether that's a maintenance person or whoever you have, overlocking, they've still got to look at and see what's going on at the property.
Do any of you allow 24 access at your properties, or there only certain access hours?
It depends on the needs. For me, it needs to be, I allow truck drivers because sometimes they have a need to come to the facility, or someone is an event planner. The job has to dictate them needing that, and then we'll give it.
Me too.
Some locations you'll charge for it, but depending on the job, it determines if we give the access. Back to the question regarding the escalations, that goes back to the hiring process. And like Carol said, someone sitting in the office. On my interviews, we're going to get up and walk the property. I do a walking interview, so it's not a desk job.
That's good.
Another thing that we do as far as the escalation, just being a good people person. You have to know these people, they're upset at some point. As long as they're not being rude, condescending, or being aggressive, we have to let them vent first. Let's let them vent. Once they get done venting or listening to them vent, you can figure out what the actual problem is and see if we can solve it. Then we solve it. But we even give our assistant managers, property managers, general managers level of credits or things that they can waive. They need to waive a month of rent, waive something to accommodate what that customer complaint is. If they can't resolve it, then it moves to the regional manager. The regional manager can't resolve it, then it goes to the regional director and on up the ladder. It may not keep going that far, because if we can't solve it, then maybe it's best that, maybe we give you a free month of rent and you move out within that 30 days, or maybe we give you 2 months and you move out. But just to still show them care and concern and some consideration, but to fix the problem, sometimes we can't fix it. So maybe we give them 2 months and let them move out if they have a 10 by 30, but still try to show them that we care through it all. You have to listen to them a bit sometimes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It starts with listening. And, ultimately, given the resources and depending on the situation, we'd like to de-escalate it before it gets off the property. I'd like my manager to be able to handle that situation. Obviously, there's an escalation process where we would start that stair step, but given the resources and the tools, I'm pretty confident that we can handle almost any situation. And it's not being Oprah, just giving out stuff. I don't always agree in that, but I think there's a time and place for everything, and depending on your situation. But first and foremost, you got to listen. You got to listen and show that you care. When we start to get upset, when the customer's upset, we're not doing anything of value. So we just need to take a step back and listen. And then, sometimes it's a 24-hour rule, maybe coming back after 24 hours and reevaluating the situation and then having a game plan. Because again, depending on the situation, if it gets heated, you may need to take a step back for a moment.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit earlier about there's been many automation and technology advancements within our industry. How are you disseminating that information down to your staff with like ongoing training? Do you all send out like group messages, emails, have meetings, intranets where you're posting training materials and guides? What are you guys doing?
And I think a lot of our stuff advanced drastically during the pandemic. We do quarterly meetings, we do quarterly trainings, and then throughout each month we have a training topic with our entire organization that everyone has to complete, even the accountants, outside of the owners of ASM or Absolute. I'm sorry, they have to complete this training just to stay up to date on what our offerings are. And that's whether you're at the property level or not. And we do biannual meetings with our core team. We do a lot of training. That's where a lot of our focus is training to make sure that we're up on these new standards, this contact rental, and the best way to optimize it and make it the best way we present it to our customer base.
Got it. Anyone else?
I even with the meetings, the pandemic kind of put a lurch in my quarterly meetings and a lot of the things that I've always done over the years, but we've even incorporated at all the different properties, if we have a maintenance crew, whether it's one person with a higher skill set or just more the janitorial, we do meetings with them now as well to cover like the safety things, but also our maintenance crews interact with our customers all the time as well. So we want to make sure that they have a little bit of that backup of what they can and can't talk about, can say, or if a customer's trying to pull them over to go do something, and make sure that, they know what they can drop and go do right away or go through the office, things like that. And just to make sure that they don't get in the middle of something a manager may be trying to, stop from escalating, things like that. So outside of, my storage consultants and managers, we, do that training with the maintenance crew as well.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. It starts with the training, and we like to have district Zoom meetings on a monthly basis, and then company roundtables 2 times a year. And again, that's just getting everybody together, whether it's the Houston market and the Dallas and Oklahoma market, and Austin, just getting them together in one space and just hashing out, the changes, what's to come. Technology's been evolving dramatically. Curtis, you mentioned that earlier. So it's just to keep at the forefront of technology and continue to optimize the customer experience. What are we doing that we could do better, and how are we going to change this as we grow as a company? And so, it's Zoom is great, but we found that the company roundtable meetings with the team building and just the feedback, the surveys we take after the fact, all of those help us to become a better company because of the feedback we're getting from our managers. Super important.
So you're go ahead, Sue. Sorry. Go ahead.
If we're servicing our managers the right way, they're going to service our customers the right way. And so I've even with our meetings started asking for volunteers, my storage consultants or managers, if they want to do a little presentation, whether I help them with it or they want to do it, because you have team players that are so good at something, and for them to get up and be able to have a proud moment and express it with their peers. And sometimes hearing something from a peer comes off and sinks in so much better than listening to me drone on every meeting, and just having that difference. And it's just a way to help, highlight and grow our teams as well, and show appreciation for the things they do really well instead of always focusing on what they don't do well. And, hope that participating in that helps even more to grow all the levels of the operations.
Yeah,
I
for
had
sure.
also something, just because I was having a meeting, and I had we went around the room talking about the sales process on the phone, and got this my newest person, and she did really, really well on site. She got like 100. So she did a great job on that. But on the phone, she got like a 25 out of 100. And so then I said, so tell me what you're feeling. And she goes, yeah, I only like texting.
She's probably 21. No, I'm just kidding.
She's 20 something, right? And so I said, and she goes, no, I can't talk over the phone. I'm thinking, how did she get this far? She was fabulous. She was fabulous in the interview in person, but she doesn't like talking on the phone. And I'm thinking, wow, we made a big hiring mistake. I loved her. And at a break, I went and said, what do you want to do? Because if you
Yeah.
don't want to work here anymore, that's fine. And she left. She goes, yeah, I'd kind of rather not. She walked
Yeah,
off.
I mean, phone skills are definitely a critical piece on this. And every missed phone call you're missing
Yes.
a potential rental, because if you've got somebody else within that 1, 3, 5 mile radius as a competitor, they're going to call them too.
Yeah.
If they answer, they might rent with them instead of you guys. So
Yep.
we are at like the 10-minute mark. I just want to give a quick warning. Audience, if you could please answer those questions. There's a lot of you here and a lot of you didn't answer those polls. So if you could take a minute and answer that, that'd be great. Let's talk about some performance reviews. How often are you doing that with your staff to kind of do the checks and balances to make sure that they are doing things right as far as your key performance metrics and indicators? And, it's a good opportunity to tell them everything they're doing right and then maybe point out some of the areas that they need improvement in.
Yeah, I'll start off with that. The KPIs, or the key performance indicators, are so important to what we do every day operationally. That's something we go over multiple times a month, especially during site visits. Individual performance reviews are done on an annual basis where there's some incentive involved, pay increase, and then just that one-on-one feedback. Maybe it's constructive criticism to where, hey, here's what I'm seeing, but here's where I can see you if you just follow these next 3 steps, or you follow this direction, or whatever the case may be. So that consistency is so important as far as your performance and your evaluations, and just that goes along with the support as well.
Yeah.
I echo what Jeremy said, but something that I do know that I had with a manager, couldn't figure out why I couldn't get this manager on board. Great, amazing manager, but I never asked an important question during our evaluations. Well, what do you want to do? So I'm working towards a goal of wanting them to move into a property manager, general manager role, where all they want to be is the assistant manager. So something important with the evaluations, we do them annually, is identifying what that team member wants to do within your organization, and help them get to that point. It may be outside of operations. It may be HR, it may be marketing, maybe sales. It's something different, but identifying what that is so you all can make sure that your property is performing, and 2, that your team member is happy. And that way you get good customer service to your tenants.
3 weeks before I'm in the middle of this right now. So 3 weeks before we start sitting down with everybody to do our annual ones. And folks, if you wait until the annual review to tell somebody what they're doing good or bad, shame on you. It can't be just that once a year, because they're gonna. No one should be totally shocked about anything going into their reviews, is my opinion. About 3 weeks before, I give all the staff a chance, whether they want to put their name or anonymously, to give feedback about their site manager. And so that way, sometimes I can glean something out or it helps me with stuff they do really well that, their team wants them recognized for, or not. And then I have them answer similar questions like you were talking about. What role do you want? What would you like? What can we do? How can we help you grow? Those kinds of things. So when we do sit down, I've read those, and then I'm ready to talk about the next year's plan for them and how I can be that support and help them grow, or if they're in the wrong position, or they want a different one, or they're working with people that they're afraid to speak out about how it's going, things like that. So I found that really effective and making a lot better in the annual time. And it's not the only time that we're sitting down with people, obviously, but it's just been a good starting point to start fresh then again with everybody and get some feedback you don't normally get when you're just visiting the site.
Yeah, for sure.
Sue, are you emailing that to them, or do you just paper give it?
I email it to them, and then I give them enough time so they can send it back to their personal emails from the site email. Everybody's going to read it, or they can, I've given them a couple other avenues. They can give them back to me. I have folders at all the properties. They can seal them and put them in, and I'm at my properties enough that I could pick them up in a timely manner and get those. So, so far, I've only had one person who wanted to be anonymous. Everybody else is like, here you go. This is what I have to say, loud and proud. So it's good.
For sure. What about if you're having an issue at a particular location, do any of you use like a mystery shopping service to kind of see what's going on? Talk me through that.
Yes, we use Mr. Shop service. We do phone shops and in-person shops, video. We didn't do the video initially, but started doing the video. That really helps to be able to go back and train that team member on where they maybe dropped the ball at, and also solves their problem where they're arguing and saying, "No, I didn't do that. I did this." Well, we some video, and that's definitely helped improve the performance, and also gives us a focus of where that team member needs more focus at in the sales pitch with the tenant. So we give them a sheet so they know what questions to ask on the phone. They even know what questions to ask in person. And if they just treat every person outside of the ones that they know are tenants like new customers, they'll, one, probably sell a storage unit, and two, score high on the mystery shop and also get an extra. We give them incentives when they score 100s on the mystery shops and 100s on the phone and in-person shops.
Yeah, as you should. Anybody else?
Yeah, we also do it as well. Not necessarily because we see an issue at a property, but we look at it as opportunities, rewarding those hundreds, finding those opportunities to coach and train consistency, whether it be in the call process or the in-person shop. We do have a script, and we've actually just recently revised that script because things are changing. The way we communicate with our customers is changing. And so having a script that was 10 years old just wasn't doing it anymore. So we had to really adapt and change that. And thus far it's working well.
Awesome.
And that service is skill check. So thank you.
Carol, talk to us about that real quick. And then Sue, I'll go to you.
Say something real quick. Go ahead.
Just real quick, Carol, because I did as a favor, I did a mystery shop on a Sunday recently for one of my clients, and they close at noon on Sundays. So I purposely showed up at 11:45 and to rent a unit, and was told that I would need to come back the next day, that they didn't have enough time to help me. So as Carol can go into with the shopping and the service and the training opportunities that are there, and then even on think about if you have call centers or other avenues, you have so many recorded calls from your website and other places. If you just pop on and listen to them periodically, you get a real picture of how your phones and your follow-ups are being replied to.
For sure.
Yeah, we do mystery shopping at Skill Check, and we evaluate people's sales techniques. We not only do the managers at the stores, but we do call centers also. We basically try to give a unbiased, because sometimes the managers think, oh, the owners are out to get me. Well, we don't know them, so we hire people to make the calls. They make the calls, and we change up guys and girls and times of day and everything else, and we use not scripts, but we give the shopper like some real something that we've heard, and we give that to them, and they rotate the different things. So it's really interesting, and we give feedback. In fact, today or yesterday, the last few days, I've been working on little snippets, and they go to our website, and if they didn't do well in the counseling stage, they can go there and get specifics on how to improve that, like video clips of how to improve their sales presentation. And for companies, we show the how they're doing in districts and everything else. So we try to have a big portal for them to keep looking at how they're doing. And I know, Sue, you do this too. We give bonuses to people. So I feel like that my people don't get bonuses if they don't do well on the phone. But it's triggered by you have to get a certain number or you don't get the bonus. I mean, that's just, and the store may be doing numbers right, but we still need them to consistently be good on the phone, because we know that's a great way of getting customers, a good way to get customers.
Cool. I'm going to do a quick rapid fire round here as we end this, and then we're going to do a couple quick announcements. So audience, bear with us. We're going to go over a couple minutes. This has been such a great session. So rapid fire round. Each one of you, I'm going to go around. Tell me one thing you can do to make the customer service experience better. I'll go first. The manager must stand up, come around from the counter, greet the customer that walks in the office, and shake their hand. So Sue, what's something else you could suggest?
Well, extending onto that, I agree with that fully. But, nowadays, every time I walk into an office, somebody's on their phone and don't acknowledge me until they finish what they're doing on their phones. So that doesn't make me feel like they want my business very well. And I see at our own stores sometimes, and as you're out as a consumer, you don't get thanked very often anymore. So I think as a general rule of customer service, we want to be thanked for our business.
For sure. Curtis, you go ahead.
Get the customer's name, use it. Use their name to develop that relationship with them. And the thanking part is my other thing I was going to say, for sure. Thanking them for their service. Even if they don't rent with you, thank them just for stopping by and use their name.
Love that. Jeremy.
Do what you say you're going to do and be genuine.
Amen.
Really, I mean, I can't say it enough, but ask for the reviews after every transaction. Keep it relevant, and then follow up with your management software, maybe via email. Did you forget about us? Give us a review, whatever the case may be. I think, coming around the desk, bringing the umbrella out when it's raining outside, it's all in the details. It's the little things that I think make the biggest impact when it comes to customer service. And so if we can just dial into that, the reviews really come. But again, it doesn't hurt after every transaction to ask for that review.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that, Jeremy, because I wrote an article for ISS and online reviews. Not only ask for them, when you get them, respond to them, whether they're positive or negative, especially if they're negative. But even if they're positive, somebody took that several minutes to answer that and give you feedback. And that all ties into your website, search engine optimization, rankings. It's critical. Carol, go ahead with yours.
Well, I'm just going to say, because you all said exactly what I would have said, but I've had several husbands. So I know hiring right and doing this right the first time and getting it right. And that hiring process is so important, isn't it? And when you think, oh, well, we'll fix this or fix that, you really can't change a person's personality. They either have a sales personality or they don't. And don't judge me for the two husbands. I'm just saying that, we make mistakes. Oh, look how many hiring mistakes I've made. Sue, we sit down and talk about this all the time, don't we, over drinks? We're like, oh, we screwed this one up. And, and even though, when you look at all of this, we make so many mistakes, but let's learn from those mistakes and only get better and better. And that's why I love, the time that we have together to talk like this, because it makes a huge difference in how we see our jobs and how we get together and say, and I will say, if I have someone that has been a thief, I will call you and tell you if they're working for you now, or you could call me and say, hey, did you have a problem with this? Or have this person used to work with you? Just because they put Sue's name down somewhere, I'm going to call Sue. I'm not just going to say, oh, they put Sue's name down. I'm going to say, because we've had people before Craig had a person that said that, hey, his manager said, hey, say hi to so-and-so. I get to Arizona meeting and I said, these managers said, say hello. And he goes, those people stole my washer and dryer. Why would they say hello to me? Like,
all you have to tell me is not eligible for rehire. And I got everything I need to know.
We need to know how to communicate with each other within this industry. And we don't need to pass people. And if someone says, this is a bad person, don't think you can fix them. Because we just can't. You can't fix that part of the behavior that is steals or whatever.
Well, that goes back to people finding somebody who has experience and doing that, hiring fast. And I've got my body now. They have experience. Sure, they do. Just wait till you see what kind of experience, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
Can I add one more thing on when we were talking about the greeting and all that? That is obviously the common sense, but on audits, as I'm observing, I see all the time. Somebody comes into your property and asks to see a unit, go show them. I see people all the time quickly give a price and barely any information, and that person's awkwardly still kind of standing there waiting to see if there's anything else, and then they're like, oh, okay. They aren't taking out and showing anything, and you're missing so many opportunities to sell that property, upsell that property, and show off the pride of working here. So make sure you are showing units. Again, as Carol said, don't be a desk jockey. Get out of your chair.
Yeah, I agree.
And just important as showing those units, test the gate code before they leave.
That's what I say too. Test the
I
gate
mean,
code. Make sure it works.
that's a no-brainer, but again, it's essential to completing that customer service ring. So,
Jeremy, that's the number one thing that was called in at the call center of StoreQuest.
Yeah.
Not
Gate code issues.
not working.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
just rented or whatever.
That's just part of our lease process. They walk them out and do
Right,
the
walk them out.
the first time.
That's a trained behavior that you must train that and maintain it.
And they also know it can take 4 minutes if they're not around and they ever come back and make a payment in a kiosk or online for the computers to sync each other, so they don't automatically freak if their code doesn't work. They might have to wait a couple minutes and then it updates.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we are out of time. I feel like we could go probably another hour on this topic, but thank you all so much for being here. Audience, thank you for tuning in with us today. We are about to enter trade show season here in the next few weeks. The SBOA is going to be at 13 different shows between now and the end of the year. So I would highly encourage the audience that is on this call to at least join your state association. If you want to take it a step above that, join the National Association. All of them have trade shows coming up where you can come learn. A lot of us will be there speaking. Carol will be in Vegas speaking. I will. I'm sure Jeremy, Sue, Curtis. I mean, all of our companies. And if you want to learn any more about any of the speakers that are on with us today or their respective companies, on our YouTube channel, when we post this replay, all of their contact information will be there, their emails, their phone numbers. There it is, Sue.
I got to do my plug for charity storage.
Yeah.
Charity, yes.
Good board member.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Yes. We have some charities out there in the industry for those of you that are newer. Again, join National SSA, join your state level SSA, learn about your state laws, keep learning and keep attending our free webinars. We'll be back on August 18th. We're talking all about conversion projects. People are taking over old Kmarts that have gone out of business. Malls are a thing of the past. There's big box retailers that have moved out, and you'd be surprised. You can turn those into self-storage facilities pretty easily. So that's August 18th from 2 to 3. Thank you all for being here. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having us.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Take care.